Hey there, listener. Corey Andrew Powell here, and I'm excited to share that Motivational Mondays is now sponsored by BetterHelp. Feeling stressed or anxious? Well, BetterHelp brings you online therapy that's convenient and affordable. NSLS members get 50% off your first month of BetterHelp when you sign up at betterhelp.com/NSLS or click the link in the show notes. Start your journey to better mental health today. This week, we've got a special Veterans Day episode of Motivational Mondays, honoring service and resilience by revisiting our powerful conversation with retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Travis Mills. A true warrior of the 82nd Airborne Division, Travis survived a real life-changing IED explosion in Afghanistan, resulting in the loss of portions of both arms and legs. Yet, his journey did not stop there. So join us as we rewind this inspiring interview where Travis shares his path to reclaiming his life, breaking barriers, and helping fellow veterans and amputees do the same. Hello, everyone. I am Corey Andrew Powell, and I am truly honored today to be joined by retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Travis Mills of the 82nd Airborne Division. He is a recalibrated warrior, motivational speaker, actor, author, and an advocate for veterans and amputees. Travis's New York Times bestselling memoir, Tough as They Come, is currently available on sale in bookstores everywhere. Now, despite losing portions of both arms and legs from an IED while on active duty in Afghanistan, Travis continues to overcome life's challenges, breaking physical barriers and defying all the odds. He lives up to the motto, never give up, never quit. And his new book, which I might have too much of a glare on my computer there, but his new book is called Bounce Back, 12 Warrior Principles to Reclaim and Recalibrate Your Life. Travis, welcome to Motivational Mondays.
Hey, thanks for having me, champion. What a wonderful introduction. You nailed it, by the way.
Well, thank you. Well, listen, you lived it. You lived it. So the least I could do is summarize it properly for everyone. So as I said, truly, it is an honor. And I mean that seriously. I know people say that, but it is because for me, people who make a decision to go into the military, who just decide to go into law enforcement, and who also are in the academic field, like teachers, all those people are always I just admire those choices, because very often those are thankless situations where you give so much. So thank you for your sacrifice and service to our country.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll be honest with you. I tried college out. Wasn't my thing. I missed the camaraderie of a sports team because I was playing some college football, and the military was something I was always interested in. So I decided to try it out, thinking I'll do 4 years. I'll be, more mature. I'll go back to college. If I don't like the military, I'll get out. But I ended up really enjoying it and re-enlisting while I was in.
Wow. It's interesting you say that too, because for a kid, for me, like growing up in the 80s, there was like this sort of period where there was a generation that did not have like wars going on for the first time for a moment. And, after Vietnam, and the military was like an option for people who wanted to go to college or, quote, see the world. Like, it was really interesting that the motivation when I was young for going to college was almost sort of like an alternative option, if you will, to going to college or getting college paid for, et cetera. So then things change, of course, very different in the next decades or so. And you find yourself going into combat. So if you would just so people have a little bit of the backstory in your own words, what was that situation like for you when you had this life-changing experience?
For all the people out there that are your listeners, your followers, obviously you do a great job with recruiting people to listen and get these Motivational Mondays.
Thank you.
I was in Afghanistan for my third trip over. I was a squad leader in the 82nd Airborne Division. I was in charge of the big, heavy machine guns, which is a senior squad leader spot. So out of 40 guys in my platoon, I was 24 years old, and I was the third highest ranking non-commissioned officer in my unit. So I had guys that were older than me and been in longer, but I was still their boss. And we were mixing it up with the Taliban regularly, weekly. And we went on patrol on April 10th of 2012, came to a short halt. I put my backpack on the ground, and as soon as it hit the ground, I landed on a bomb, and the bomb went off, and it took my right arm, right leg off instantly. And then my left leg was broken pretty bad. muscle and tendon holding it on, but that was about it. Some skin. And my left wrist was blown out pretty bad. And when it was all said and done, through the medics working on me, the helicopter ride, the hospital, it was 14 hours of surgery. I was a triple amputee. And then 2 days after that, they flew me to Bagram, Afghanistan, and they had cut my left hand off the rest of the way. So I was then a quadruple amputee. And then they woke me up April 14th, which was my 25th birthday. And I got the chance to find out I had no arms and legs anymore due to a roadside bomb. And then I started questioning, like, why this happened? Am I a bad person? Faith-based, like, does God hate me? I was wondering, how can I still be a husband and a father? Because at the time, my wife was 23 and we had a 6-month-old daughter at the time. And then the big question I had was, like, why didn't I just die? Like, how is this going to be better for people? And that's it's kind of a fast forwarded version, but then I made it back to the States on the 17th of April, and they had to take me in for emergency surgery. So my wife came to see me, get out of the truck, off the truck to go to the hospital, and they stopped her and made her sign paperwork to take me into emergency surgery, cut my right leg higher. And the next day when I saw her, I told her, you know what, you don't got to do this. You can take the house, the cars, any money. It's yours. And financially, whatever I can do forever, I'll do for you and Chloe, but you guys don't need this in your life. I'm just going to be a burden. So you're good. And she didn't hesitate. My wife was like, that's not how this works. We'll get through this together. Then it was all about getting better. And again, this is a very abbreviated story. I understand that, but that's kind of where we're at.
Well, listen, this is probably the second time I've done this show for 3 years now. I was like literally trying not to just break down in that. I was like, it is so harrowing. That is such an amazing story. And that level of grief and feeling like you don't understand why. I love that you kind of channel all that in this book, the 12 Warrior Principles, the Bounce Back book, because you talk about that feeling of wanting to know why something happens as opposed to just accepting that something happens and get better from it. So I actually, you have these great 12 principles in the book that I think are like actionable steps to get better and to do better in life. But I highlighted some of the 5 of the ones that I really wanted to talk about. And that is actually the one to begin with, which is the asking why. And you say about that, basically, which is the dog, that dog don't hunt expression, which I love. Stop torturing yourself and stop asking why. So talk a little bit about the pitfall of getting stuck in asking why versus just accepting.
Yeah. I mean, for me, with my situation, you can sit there and why'd this happen? What if I would have did this? What if I would have done that? What if I would have changed this up? And I would do that in my hospital bed. I would do that. And then my wife would come by. My daughter would come lay on my chest and play with me. She was 6 months old. And then I would close my eyes and I'd hope and I'd wish and I'd pray this never happened. And I would think, when I open my eyes, this is all going to be a nightmare. I'm going to wake up and not be in this hospital bed. And I would open my eyes and I was still there. And I realized early on, one of the life lessons that I live by is don't dwell on the past, just reminisce it, because you can't change what happened yesterday. And I realized that if I kept asking why, and I kept playing out different scenarios of what could have happened, what I could have done different, I was going to get lost in just a whole, maze of what if I did this? What if I did that? And I realized that there's no answer that's ever going to suffice. There's no answer out there for me that is going to be like, now I get it. Like, that makes sense. So instead of being angry and bitter about the whole thing happening, I realized, you know what? Stop asking why. And it's not like it's the easiest thing to do, right? You still wonder some days, but just accept, like, this is my new life. This is my new normal. I have no arms and legs, but I have prosthetics. My daughter was there with me the whole time. I learned how to walk with my daughter. And I don't think I'd be the same person if my daughter wasn't there. I think it might have been maybe a different outcome. But because I had my daughter there, needing me to be her father, my wife being by my side, being strong for us, and given the chance to live through my injuries where a lot of my friends overseas didn't make it back home, it was easier to get over my injuries and get past the why and just accept and move forward on recovery and figuring out, like, how can I be productive in life. Because I mean, there was 5 weeks of not having a prosthetic arm where I needed help getting dressed, using the restroom, just a whole bunch of things.
Yeah.
So it's, and then once I got my prosthetic arm 5 weeks in, it was like, okay, now I can do things independently. And then it turned into, not poor me, pity me. It turned into, okay, how do I find my new normal? How do I recalibrate my life? Not be a wounded warrior, right? Just be a recalibrated warrior, and change the mindset of how I see myself, because I was given the chance to survive my injuries.
It's interesting you bring up the wounded warrior phrase, because every time I'm watching television and I see certain commercials, there are certain ones I'm like, yeah, I'm going to donate to that one. And wounded warriors is one of those.
And the thing is, it's not, and I want to make it very clear, Corey, to everybody, like, it's not a knock on Wounded Warrior Project. I just think that wounded has a negative connotation. Right. I think it already puts sadness in people's like, oh, you're one of those wounded guys. Whereas, like, look, I have scars, right? My wounds have healed. I have scars, massive scars, down my back and everything like that. But no, it's not that big. But anyway, it's just like, even the word veteran now, like, oh, you're a veteran. Like, what's wrong? Right. You're already like assumed to have something wrong because you're a veteran. Right. Whereas I'm like, no, I was proud to serve, thankful to have the opportunity, had a bad day at work. And, I don't need people feeling like there's something tremendously wrong with me. Like when I go and I speak, right. And I know I'm getting off topic here, but
please.
I was explaining to the last folks I talked to in New Mexico just 2 days ago. I was in New Mexico and I got to go to Denver tomorrow. It's kind of a full-time gig for me now. It's about 400 plus engagements now. I don't know.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that, though. That's amazing.
Not a year. I cap it at 40. I don't do I own a few other.
You have to live your life with as well.
I got my wife and 2 kids now, and so I was explaining to the person that was talking to me afterwards. I said, if I would come to the cocktail hour, I get invited to come to the cocktail hour for dinner and for the awards banquet, whatever they bring me in for, and maybe 3-4 people will talk to me. Because everyone wants to stay away because I have no arms and legs. So like, oh, I wonder what if I say the wrong thing to that guy? Then I go on stage and I tell jokes, and then I tell my story, and I am relatable to everybody because I'm a father, I'm a husband, right? I was a service member, I'm a business owner, and I'm somebody there to, motivate them and let them know, like, no matter what, never give up, never quit, keep pushing forward, and yes, you can. Yeah. And when I get done talking, then I have a whole lineup. And I always tell the clients that hire me, like, I'll be the first in the room to do the tech check, and I'll be the last one within the room. Anybody wants to get a picture and talk to me can. But the thing is, I realize for me to make everybody else feel comfortable by telling jokes is how I get the conversation started with people and let them see me as who I am. Right. And I think this is a roundabout way. And I get we went way off the rails here.
No, it makes relevant.
I want to be more than my injuries. And I need people to see that just because I'm, was wounded, now I'm a recalibrated guy, like, I'm still Travis. And the best thing I've done in my hometown here where I live in Maine, or I guess kind of all over Maine, is when they try to describe who I am to people, they're like, oh, the guy that has the Travis Mills Foundation, like Chloe's dad or Dax's dad, or I own a restaurant, in a marina or whatever. And then like about the 4th or 5th one, the guy that lost his arms and legs. And I went from the guy with no arms, no legs to now all these other ways to describe me. And then finally it's like, the guy with no arms, no legs. Right.
That moved down the ladder basically. Now people think of you not by your injuries.
And I think that was the mindset of like, I'm no longer wounded. Right. And I'm just a regular everyday dad. Yeah. And I have a new normal,
That's really profound, seriously, because it does make me rethink that. You're right. There's a negative connotation, and especially when there's always a conversation around veterans and how they're cared for by the government. There's always this narrative of like, they're all not cared for. They're not doing well. And I do wonder, though, in that regard, and this is not to get political with right or left or Democrat, Republican, this is about the U.S. government in general taking care of veterans. Do you feel there could be more done on that side of things to take care of veterans better, or people who've been wounded in combat? Or how do you feel about that?
I mean, I'm taken care of very well, very thankful for the things I have and the abilities that I have to be taken care of with my prosthetics, to my healthcare, to my family. Okay. I will say a lot of times that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and there's people that go out there and they want to bang the war drum about how bad the VA is, and they're not actually entitled to it. And I think there's a lot of that goes on where people, they think they're deserving. Like for instance, if I worked at Google for 4 years and I left Google, they wouldn't take care. Like Google's not going to be like, oh, let's keep doing your medical. Let's keep doing this. The military is volunteer. And when people volunteer for 4 years and then they get out and then they go somewhere else and then they want the VA to do something for them. And they're like, sorry, you're not covered anymore. And people get mad about that. It's like, it was volunteer. Like Vietnam, you were drafted. Right. Iraq and Afghanistan. So I do have mixed feelings. I have mixed feelings on it. I think the government does the best they can. I think that if you're very forthcoming with the information of what you need, what the expectations are and what you're entitled to, I think that it goes a lot smoother. And I see a lot of stories out there where that person's actually not entitled to the benefit that they're trying to get. So,
and that's up to them to sort of know that before they should know what that status is and what their limitations are before they would ask for.
I mean, I know a gentleman that broke his leg playing in a pickup soccer game, but he had gotten out of the military after 4 years. I mean, did a combat tour, two of them, but like got out and then broke his leg and was like, well, the VA is not going to fix it. And it's like, why would they? It's not a VA or a army or a government problem, and I wasn't very popular with him that day.
Well, I appreciate you saying that and telling me about that because I had not thought about that. I think there's just, like I said, there's always a narrative of like, I'm in the military and there's not enough being done for me, but I had not considered all those nuances. Are you active? How you were injured? Was it in combat? And that's different than your friend who broke his leg, violent, like kind of leisurely playing a sport, so I definitely appreciate that clarity. And I want people who are listening and watching to think about that now when they see or hear people say that the government's not doing enough, that it's probably a bigger story there.
Well, I mean, and look, there's things that fall through the cracks. I'm not saying there's not. So, there's always room for improvement. I'm just saying that for my personal care, it's very good. So I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful for that.
Okay. Rock and roll. That's awesome. Well, listen, more principles, more of your 12 principles. One of the other one, of course, which I love, we kind of tapped into it, but it's unpack the rucksack, which is, like you just said, to process what happened so you can grow from it. So what I've discovered from all the very successful business owners or people who are successful in life, people who I've interviewed here on this podcast over the past few years, there is this common denominator of not getting stuck and sort of processing what you might have thought was a failure beforehand or what you thought might have been a trauma. So this idea of actually owning that trauma and embracing that trauma as a means to bring you forward is also another sort of extension of what you said previously. But what do you feel about that, about, taking experiences and growing from them when they've been so traumatic? I mean, there's a balance of grievance and growth. How do you find that middle ground?
We can make excuses for why something's the way it is. We can sit there and think we know what's going on, but until you fully look at it from all angles and like it says, unpack your rucksack, you're never really going to get to the bottom of why something's happening, what's causing you to feel a certain way. And, I believe that this book that I was fortunate to write, Bounce Back with Kathy Huck, I mean, it's not just my story, right? It's not just a military side story. Like this is other people's story, things they've been through, divorce, cancer, widowers, drug addiction, sexual abuse survivors, and things like that. And as far as the Unpack Your Rucksack, I know that actually he runs a very successful post-traumatic stress program for the military and first responders through the Travis Mills Foundation. James Prindle, it's his story in there about the rucksack. And he's talking about how he was always angry and mad after he got out of the Marines, and he explains what he was thinking, what he went through, and he couldn't fully heal until he took into consideration everything going on, exactly what was making him feel that way. And then now he's leading this very, it's just the best in the nation. I don't know how to put it, innovative, but it's the best in the nation for post-traumatic stress Warrior Path program for the Travis Mills Foundation. And that's what my hope was for this book, was to incorporate other people's stories that are common so people know that they're not alone out there. And I think your support group that you fall back on is the real key to success and recovery. And this chapter about unpack your rucksack, it really opens up people's minds to think, okay, there's probably a deeper issue that I'm not taking care of. I'm not looking at all angles. I'm not really getting to the root of it. I'm just trying to Band-Aid to get through today, or Band-Aid to get through this situation or this feeling I have once in a while. And, I think it really opens up people's minds to take a more, extensive look at themselves and figure out what's really going on.
I'm a big advocate of that, especially when it comes to therapy in general. So I haven't had the traumatic experience that you've had, and of course the injuries and all that. But, I've had my own sort of like personal traumas that I didn't even know bothered me until I was like 28 years old, and I was being reckless with behavior and didn't understand why I was in New York City being a knucklehead, and in the 90s. And I said, I got to figure this out. And I went to therapy, and I began to really unpack stuff that I had no idea was there and bothered me. And it wasn't until, that point that I was able to move forward, and it changed everything. I mean, and for the better, right? Like I understood why I was doing things, trying to fill voids, with bad stuff. And, so I agree. You have to kind of get to the root of who you are and what ails you, if you will, before you can get better.
Well, yeah. And one of my best friends, his story's in there. He got a divorce, but his name's Bobby. And his story's in the book where he wasn't sure why he was so cut off from everybody or so short with his wife at the time, and things like that. And then after he went through the PATH program, he found out it's survivor's guilt. He felt so terrible that a lot of his buddies that were in the Marines with him had died because he was a crew chief on CH-47, like Chinook style helicopters. And he felt bad that he didn't understand why they passed away and he didn't, and things like that. But it helped him change his whole life around in the narrative, and be in the driver's seat. And I will tell you this, I run into this a lot where I give my presentation and then people come talk to me and they tell me something that they went through or something they got better. Like you did, right? You had to go to therapy, but they'll say nothing like what you went through. And if I can just be real, and I mean this, it's not just to promote the book or to have this, me sound good. Your biggest problem is your biggest problem, right? So I hate when people feel they have to downplay what they're going through because I was in a bomb. Because the biggest thing is what we go through is real. What we have experienced in life that affects us in a positive or negative way is real. And I think sometimes people get too caught up on trying to compare what their experiences are to my experience. And at the end of the day, your biggest problem is your biggest problem. And I would not want you to take that away from yourself. And I would never take that away from you. So, I appreciate you opening up and telling me that, but I need you to know that, we all have things we deal with. And I think that's important for people out there because I feel like a lot of people don't go get the help like you and I went and sought and got because they think, well, I'm not as bad off as this person. Like they have real problems and mine are just like small problems. So I don't need to get the help. And I think I'm really butchering this right now, but does that make sense?
No, it does. And there's and it's funny because I didn't even realize before I shared that story with you, the first thing I said was, it wasn't like what you went through, but and I didn't even catch that. But to you, you're sensitive to that because you hear it a lot. And I definitely just appreciate that.
Yeah. I don't want people to downplay what they went through because they believe that what I went through was worse, because at the end of the day, what you went through was real. What you went through affected you, and what you went through helped you for the better because you went and got the help. Yeah. And I think I'm putting in the context of, I feel like a lot of people will not get the help because they don't think that they're as bad off as somebody else. Like, oh, they're worse than, they're worse than I don't think I need to get the help because like if they can do it, I should be able to do it. And it's you never know what people are really going through. And yeah, my injuries are noticeable, right? They're visual. But at the same time, it doesn't make someone else that's going through something with, like, say, anxiety or financial problems any less important.
Yeah, those things can be very debilitating for people.
Now, I did have a lady tell me that she was having a bad hair day, and then she saw me and thought, well, I guess my day's not that bad. I was like, well,
okay, let's not. Yeah, in her case, she's the exception to the rule. But I think, but hopefully people know when they hear stories like yours or like mine that
that we all go through things and we all need to unpack our rucksack or take a good look at why we're dealing with this. And you get one life to live. And I know I hate the term YOLO. I'm like, that's so stupid. But at the same time, like, it's not. It's true. And you might as well make the best of it because you only get one life to live.
Yeah, I mean, it is a really it's a kind of a overused acronym, I guess, at this point. But yeah, it is definitely a real thing because I always, the whole idea about this is not a dress rehearsal. It really comes into play when you think about like how fast, your birthdays come and you wake up one day and you're like, wait, I'm how old? It's really moving quickly. So I totally agree with you on that. You got to make the best of it. So when it comes to that, though, other veterans, I'm going to talk about your foundation, Travis Mills Foundation, and how it impacts the lives of 9/11 veterans and their families. So tell me a little bit about the foundation, what it does, and what successes you've had with it.
I lost my chance to serve, right? I was at the hospital and I realized like I'm no longer Staff Sergeant Travis Mills, leader of combat soldiers, the job I was born to do, I felt like. And my wife and I wanted to do something to give back. And we saw these great nonprofits helping us out, helping other veterans and their families out. So we decided to start the Travis Mills Foundation. And it was simple. It's just care packages. We donated $5,000 from ourselves to do care packages. And we did the care packages. And then I went on these cool trips at Walter Reed, downhill mountain biking, snowboarding, kayaking. And when I went on these trips, because of my injuries, I require a non-medical assistant. I still need help put my legs on and my arm on the right way to this day and button in my pants, right? I mean, about 5 minutes in the morning, I'm usually good, pretty independent, good to go. But I still need that help. And when my wife got to go on these trips with me, we were both healing together. And I was able to experience these like adrenaline rushes and these highs and these things where I was like, I'm not going to teach my kids how to play football, basketball, baseball, the sports I played, right? I mean, I can talk them through it, but I can't play catch. I can't, and that's okay. Like, but I can still do these action sports. And it was so amazing. But I realized that the funding was for the service member to learn it. And they had to get as many service members as they could through. So the non-medical assistants were for the guys that were like me. And I thought, well, geez, I'm just so fired up. I can do this with my family. So let's start something for families. And it was just an idea that was born of bringing families out that have been through physical injuries due to service. And we did a proof of concept week at a camp we rented. We did another proof of concept week the next year. And we bought a facility and we opened it in 2017 after like 2 years of renovations. And now we bring out 8 families per week and show them to live life out the sidelines, no matter what their injuries are, spinal cord, amputations, something that's physically debilitating due to service. Could be a car accident stateside, could be overseas, getting blown up like me. But we bring them out and let them know, hey, go after it. Live out the slogan of never give up, never quit. And then because of my speaking and people talking about post-traumatic stress so much to me, we found a way to partner with Warrior Path program. And we do 12 weeks. Next year, we're doing 15 weeks of that. And that actually just had a new add-on where now it's not just combat veterans, but it's combat veterans and first responders. And we our annual budget's like $4.5 million. I've never taken a dime. I don't pay myself from the foundation. I'll take bonuses. I'm not on any salary. It's not about me and Kelsey getting paid for this. It's about giving back. And we're just grateful. We've grown to be one of the top veteran service organizations out there. We're doing really well. So I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, so the activities, so these are like, as you mentioned, people who have these physical conditions. You have these different, I guess, sort of mechanisms in place that allow them to experience these sports, right? Like different, I would imagine some innovation going on there
Yeah. We make it adaptable. So like archery, we have like I can shoot a bow and arrow. They found a way to like do up a harness for me where I hit my chin on it to release the arrow and hold the bow. And so we have archery, we have golfing, we have down the little hill or whatever across the road. We have all the water sports, kayaking, canoeing. And we have a high-rise ropes course, but we can put people in a wheelchair and do the ropes course. I mean, we made it fully accessible, barrier-free is our, what we strive for. And we let the whole family do it as a unit, which is life-changing. And we keep it to 8 families per week, not because I couldn't go bigger, because I don't want to.
Right.
It's non-clinical. If people need any therapy, we have a really good relationship with the VA. We luckily, no one's had like a breakdown where we've had to do that. And then, the most healing or opening and sharing is around the bonfire, right? The kids are all worn out. They get their s'more, they go to bed. The adults sit out there. We let them have adult beverages as long as they don't get out of control.
Right.
And they just share. They just share what they're going through, what they experience. And it's really neat, from an idea of how can I still serve to what we have now. It's been it's been a wild ride, some some sleepless nights. Is this going to work? To now, we just try to give back and do as much as we can. We have 7 different programs now that we actually offer, so it's going really well.
Wow, this is an amazing conversation. I thank you. And I want to just tell you that one of the most inspirational photos is your beautiful photo of you and your family on the back of the book, where it's just, that's a man who's grateful and has everything to live for with a beautiful family. And we are all better for it, for you being here and telling your story. So U.S. Army Staff Sergeant, retired U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Travis Mills of the 82nd Airborne Division and author of Bounce Back. Thanks for joining me today here on Motivational Mondays.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And if I could put a shameless plug in here, if you guys want to check me out on social media, I make a lot of fun videos at SSG Travis Mills for Instagram and Facebook. And I got some that are probably make you, hopefully you'll buckle over with laughter. But no, hey, Corey, it's been great. Thanks so much for having me on your podcast here. And thanks for the time. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
My pleasure. Thank you, sir.